Bohemian Rhapsody, directed by Bryan Singer and stars Rami Malek in scene-stealing form as Freddie Mercury, the iconic singer and lead singer of the group Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody tells us the story of Freddie Mercury from his early days working in an airport to how he met up with Brian May to form Queen and how they got the genesis for some of their most iconic hits in terms of Bohemian Rhapsody, in terms of Another One Bites the Dust, in terms of We Will Rock You. And it leads us up to the final sequence in the film where Queen play Live Aid. And that for me was one of the best parts of the film. Always intrigued about watching this film because Freddie Mercury is an enigma. We know a lot about Queen. They were one of the most defining rock bands of the 70s and 80s. But in terms of its lead singer, Freddie Mercury, we didn't know anything about him. And this film gives us a glimpse into his life. This film has received mixed reviews from critics. But personally for me, I love this film. Based upon the performance of Rami Malek, who was phenomenal as Freddie Mercury. There is a really big difference between giving a really good performance and a good impersonation of this person. Rami Malek gave an incredible performance, catching every nuance of Freddie Mercury as a performer, as a human being, and it was just a revelation. And I don't like to predict Oscar nominations, but I hope that this man is not Oscar nominated because he did a really, really good job. And as a biopic, it flows beautifully. Because for me, it gave us a glimpse into Freddie Mercury and told us things about him that I never knew, or we as an audience never knew, in terms of he worked at an airport, he was engaged to a woman once, all these types of things here. And it was really, really good to recapture all of the musical hits, how they performed them, how they got the inspiration for those songs, watching them rehearse and make these songs from scratch like Bohemian Rhapsody. And I didn't know that Bohemian Rhapsody originally was panned upon its release. But now it's one of the most iconic songs of all time. And the direction of this film was also great. Now, what was interesting about this film is that Bryan Singer was fired during this film. And Dexter Fletcher took over directional duties, finishing off the last part of the film. But Bryan Singer gets directing credit. It's hard to know what starts and where it finishes and what was done by whom. But as a film, it works beautifully. And the supporting cast of this film was great. Mike Myers is unrecognizable in this film, and he plays one of the A&R people, management people who refused to sign Queen. And it was only when I left the cinema that I clicked onto something. That Mike Myers, the Bohemian Rhapsody, and didn't like it. But in Wayne's World, where Wayne, played by Mike Myers, they were nodding their heads to Bohemian Rhapsody. So it was a really, really good connection when they did this. But for me, my favourite part of this film was the end sequence of this film, where we see Queen perform at Live Aid. And let me tell you, it was just phenomenal. How they recreate that sequence, obviously they use visual effects, but to see these guys perform, everybody in the cinema was nodding their heads, clapping and tapping their feet. And this film was also very touching as well. Freddie Mercury was taken away from us at such a young age, at 45, after dying from AIDS. And this film captures that part of the film. It captures that part of his life. And to see how he is diagnosed and to see him reveal his diagnosis to his fellow bandmates, I thought it was a touching sequence. The part for me that really got me was when he was actually being diagnosed by a physician. You don't hear anything from him. There's no music and it's just the doctor speaking. And the emotion that Rami Malek conveyed in that film, just through his eyes, was just touching. And again, he was taken away from us way too young, but at the same time, he's left a legacy as one of the most iconic musicians around, whose music can still be played to this day. And that is his gift to the world. And it was quite refreshing hearing how someone who's self-conscious about his teeth, etc., and how he was just self-conscious, he refused to conform. He dressed the way that he wanted to dress, he acted the way that he wanted to act, and he said, you know what, Queen is a band for those who are ostracized, who feel like they're outsiders. And I thought that was quite inspirational. And what was also quite insightful in this film was just to see Freddie Mercury's life and how he suffered something that a lot of people who become successful suffer, where they can achieve all of this success, but at the same time, they can still be miserable and not have any real friends or real support around them. And that's, you know, that's life, unfortunately, and we get to see that in Freddie Mercury's life. And again, like I said, this film has received mixed reviews from critics. Some people say that there's some inaccuracies, but it gives us a glimpse into Freddie Mercury's life. For someone who is very, very private, it gives us a glimpse into his life and into the man that he was. But on the whole, Bohemian Rhapsody, loved every minute of it. My good friend Joe, he told me, you know what, review this film, because we loved it. And you know what, Joe, I loved it too. So, this one's for you, brother. So, with that being said, I will give Bohemian Rhapsody a very strong 9 out of 10. And yes, this is one that you should have in your DVD collection, and it's going to be in mine. So, that's my review of Bohemian Rhapsody. If you like what you see, subscribe to this channel, leave your comment with what is your favourite Queen track, and I shall see you on the next film review. Take care.